Yo, 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 MC Megaruler in the house, about to break down the EL slate for Thursday, 10/22. Just a reminder that you have 2 weeks left to take advantage of FSI's free EuroLeague coverage. So if you go to fsidfs.com and you go to EuroLeague page, you'll see the information on how to join our Discord and to get all the free information, including our sheets and our cores and all our coverage for that. So it was exciting. It looked like we were going to have a nice 5-game slate. We made it through last week, which was a double week with all kinds of ups and downs, weird rotations, weird lineups, COVID cancellations, and things looked to be back to normal. Then the 5-game slate became a 4-game slate. Then the 4-game slate became a 3-game slate. So tomorrow, if you're playing EuroLeague, do not play anybody from Berlin and Baskonia. That game has been postponed. And do not play anybody from AC Milan or Zenit, because that game has also been postponed. And the EuroLeague actually had a thing where if you looked at some of the box scores last week, some of the games that didn't play, the team that didn't have enough players forfeited 20-0. Well, it seemed like teams are throwing in the towel way too easily. So the EuroLeague reevaluated that and decided that we're not going to give you a 20-0 loss. We're actually going to make you play the game later in the season, and we'll figure out when. So it's good for us EuroLeague DFS players, because that means that there'll be some more makeup games, double weeks, maybe some showdown slates. That'd be cool too. So gives us some more opportunity to play this game and to have some more sweats. So this game week, Thursday, again, it's 3 games, and there's a game canceled on Friday, so it's going to be a 3-game also, but we'll get to that in the next section. So let's just focus on Thursday. So there are still some good matchups. There's not too many injuries that we have to worry about. There are some key guys out, and we'll go over that as we break everything down. It's kind of nice how it sets up too, because you got one game at 1 o'clock, one game at 2 o'clock, and then the final game's at 2:45. So it's kind of hard when you only get lineups 5, 4, 3, 2 minutes, 30 seconds before lock, and you have like 2 games locking simultaneously, and you're trying to figure out the starting lineups and who's actually in and out and playing for 4 teams all at the same time. So it makes it kind of nicer for tomorrow. So let's look at the first game. The first game is going to be Valencia and Zelgiris. Both teams actually shockingly have started off the season playing very well. Valencia has played 3 games. They're 2-1. They lost to Barcelona last game, but didn't completely get smashed by them. They held it pretty close. So Sastre, as we know, is going to be out. He's going to be out for a while. And Josep Puerto has joined the team. I don't think he's going to be very relevant. Haven't heard much about him or anybody really commenting on him. So looks like, just to add some depth, is probably just a role player there. So looking at this, probably the best place to start is with Dublovic. He's been solid in cash. We look at his projection at like 27, so he's over the 2.5x that we're looking for. He's had 3 solid games. Well, the first game he got in foul trouble, so he kind of disappointed there. But the 2 after that were really good, really solid. He's a good player. 10K is not bad, so definitely someone that I trust, and you can start a cash lineup with him. The one thing I don't really understand is the second highest priced player on this team is Mike Toby. He's a backup, and he's a good backup. He's 17 minutes a game, which is only like 8% of the team's minutes. But like, why is he so expensive? He hasn't hit 20 points all year. He gets decent minutes for backup, but 81 is way insanely too expensive. So he's a GPP because he can do well, but that's just way too much for a backup. But not probably looking at him to play him. D. Will was a great player last year, but he's really faded away. he had a good first round, but he's averaged like 11 points the last 2 rounds. So he's a fade until I see some consistency out of him. Clinic, he has actually had a really good season. Starting at the small forward, 76. That's a great price for him. He could get close to 3x. Another trouble with Zelgiris is with their pace. As you can see, that their pace is almost like 2 possessions less per game than normal. Zelgiris is a team that purposely wants to take the air out of the ball. They want to slow things down. They want to be deliberate. It's not that they don't tend to hurry. They're a team that actually deliberately wants to shorten the game, take away possessions from their opponent, and so that can lead to a few less DK points. It has the lowest total, but there's actually all the totals are pretty low today. I think the highest total is 155.5. So it's not like there's a track meet game that you really want to get a lot of pieces of for DFS value. So anyways, going back to Clinic here, definitely somebody I'm looking at. I love the price. I definitely think he can get about, he's had back-to-back 25-point DK games, so definitely somebody that I'm very, very interested in. Abier, he's had back-to-back 17s after dud week 1. And it's 56 on a 3-game slate. I think he's safe for like a low mid-range cash play. Don't really hate it, especially at that price. Usually mark value plays at like 55 and below, so he's like right there, just a little bit above value. But I think with the last couple of games, he's a decent choice. They've got a lot of guards on this team. Van Rossen was decent at times last year. Hermanson was decent last year, but all these guys they're just really not putting it together. They're coming up with single-digit weeks, or maybe like 10 or 12, and just with prices in the 6s, that's just not going to cut it. But Vivas and Prepperlick, the 2 starters, they've actually produced enough to come out to get to like the 2.5 X value that I'm looking for. So either one of those are definitely good value plays that I feel comfortable in cash filling in your lineup. If you want to get some high-priced players in there, they're definitely ones to fill it out and to finish things up. The only other one that I'd really consider on this team is maybe Sam M. is just kind of like a value fill-in. He's a decent player. I don't think he's got a floor below cash. He doesn't have much of a ceiling, but he's not one that's going to get like single digits and completely tank your lineup and snowflake on you. So let's look at the other side of the game, going to Zelgiris. Now they started out 4-0 unexpectedly. They were like one of the worst teams in the league last year. And this year they've got a good coach. They're really coming together. They're really playing good. So first couple of rounds for Gregoris was like, did great. He had like a 30-point ceiling, and then the last couple of rounds he's had like a 13 and a 16. So I know he had 3 fouls in each game, so maybe that had part of it. But then on the flip side, Lucas Lekaveckius, I mean, they don't really play the same position. They're in the same backcourt. He had 2 low first rounds and then comes back with a 22 and a 21-point effort. So I think if you look at them, they're both GPPs. Either one of them can hit, but I just don't see the consistency there. I know it's a 4-game sample size, and some teams have only played 2 or 3 games, but I think they're fine in tournaments. Like, they have upside, but I don't know if either one of them I definitely don't trust in cash. Hayes had a 30 last round, which was big, but if you look at the rest of his averages, he's usually around 20, which is, it's over the 2.5x. So I feel safe with him in cash. 82 is a little bit high, but I think he can get there in this matchup. It's only a 2.5 point spread. It should be a pretty close game. Joffrey Laverne, he missed 1 game. I think he had a positive COVID test, and it seemed like it was a false positive because he really didn't miss that much time. And he came back, but he is super consistent. He is somebody definitely I love in cash, 20-point games, you know, about the same total every single game. That's about 2.8 to 9x, 3x potential. Definitely somebody I trust in cash games, and really good play there. So then if you look at these guards, it's just with Walkup and Jokic, they're just like, they seem like they have like an inverse relationship with one another, because Walkup first game was 12, then he had 19, and then he had an 8, and then he had a 19. Djokovic was opposite. He had a 21, then an 8, then a 23, and then 11. So it seems like any game that Walkup did good, Djokovic did bad, and vice versa. So if it's like a wave, then that means that Walkup's going to have the bad game this week and Djokovic is going to have the good game. But I did notice that Walkup did have a lot of foul trouble in the third round, and that's why he didn't have as many minutes, and Djokovic came in and played. So I think either one of them can do well, but until I see more of a pattern, or if the coach is using them as like a rotation, like every other game, like one of them's going to get more minutes and we can actually pin down what's happening, I think they're too risky to play in cash, but they do have a lot of upside if you want to play them in a tournament. Pricing's not too far apart. It's about $800. So, but Walkup's the starter, so I mean, of course, he's one that's priced higher. So, if you're looking for people in that price range to fill in to finish out your lineup, I'm okay with it, but there's really not stability there. Malinkas, he's all over the place too. He's got like a 12 to 13 place floor in cash, but a 25-point ceiling. Again, I'm marked as a GPP because he has gotten there. He's got the potential to get there. He's at 55. He's right at where I mark like value plays, but I don't trust him as a true value because his box score has been too wild by a total like the first 4 games. So yeah, guards. The only one I really like that could be a value is Vastura. He's only 3,900. He's been consistently around like the 8-9 point range. So that's somebody that's under 4K that if you need somebody super low to finish your lineup, he's not going to get you a 0. He's going to get some run. He's going to get some playing time. He's going to get some points out there. So that's him. And the other person in that situation too is Gieben. If you're looking for a forward in that same situation, he's always good for like 9 to 11 points, not going to get you more. Value that will consistently get you something, but it's not a cash lock at all. Only other one if you're looking through box scores, so you'll see Rubit had one monster game, but that's the game that Joffrey was out with his positive COVID test, so I can't really recommend him at all. Okay, so moving on to the next game, the 2:00 game is Fenerbahce, and they are taking on Panopthiakos. So Fenerbahce is favored by 4 points. It's got the highest total at 156, but again, the lowest total is like 154. So there's really not that much of a variance in totals. Now, Fenerbahce is one of the few teams that actually played domestically after the double week, but they're a unique team. If you see the list section here, the people that are in green, you notice there's only 4 of them green because the 5th starter is Bobby Dixon, and he only plays domestically. He doesn't play in EuroLeague. It's almost like they have like 2 sets of teams because, as I've explained many times before, some of these countries, and Turkey's one in particular, for Fenerbahce is a Turkish team, where you can only have a certain amount of non-national players playing your domestic team. So it's almost like they have a set of 1 players that plays domestically and the other set that plays in the EuroLeague. So Nando's never going to play domestically, and Lorenzo Brown's never going to play domestically, but it seems like Leo Westerman, who's a decent player, hardly plays any time in EuroLeague, but he starts and does really well domestically. So breaking this team down, they're 2-2 on the season. They started out really good. They lost both games in the double week. You have two really solid studs on this team that are super strong cash plays in Nando. He's really come together this year and really has been playing well. And Vesely too. Both of them, it's definitely a good place to start in cash. Lock those two in and build the rest of your lineup around it. I can't argue with that. Brown, I have him marked as a cash play. He only had 16.5 the last round, and they moved him up almost $1,000 in salary. So not too happy about that. Makes me a little apprehensive, but they did have a tough matchup last time out against a good defensive team. So if I take out that last game of data, then his number definitely reaches where I'm looking for cash. So I'm calling him a fringe cash play. I think there's better ones out there. He's definitely not a priority, but if he fits, he's under 10K. He's playing for a good team. He's had 3 good games out there. So definitely one that I would consider for cash. Juranovic, he might get there in cash. He won't kill you. I have him listed as a GPP. He's got no ceiling whatsoever, but he's definitely got some floor. So if you're looking for safety, he's a good person to lock in. I know GPPs, you're looking for more potential, but I just think the viability makes him more of a tournament play than a true cash play. And I think 7,100 is getting way too steep. I think he should definitely be like more of a 6K player with his output. Barthel starts, but he plays less than 20 minutes. Even his best game, he still only gets around 2x. We're looking for 2.5, so he's a fade for me. So even though you see him as a starter, and we like to lock in starters, so we know they're going to play and we know they're going to get minutes. He just, if you look at his minutes, is less than 10% of the teams. Even though it's like close to 20, it's pretty spread out between the front court in minutes, so not someone I'm looking at. Eddie, Jarrell Eddie, wow. So I think it was round 1, he had 8 points. Round 2, he had 5 points. Round 4, he had 4 points. But round 3, he had 27.5 points out of nowhere off the bench. Now, it was a double week, so maybe it was part of the rotation to try to rest players up. So definitely has a high ceiling, has the potential, like he can have a smash game. 54 is kind of high to take a risk at, to try to see if you capture that ceiling game again. I have him as blue here because anytime you see a blue letter, like I've color coded, like green is cash and yellow is GPP and dark red is out, and then I have the kind of lighter red is a fade, and then the orange is a value. If it's a green value, it's a cash value. Anytime you see this blue color, it means that I'm really interested in if they're starting. So if you see the starting lineup come out and he's in, then he's somebody that definitely moves higher up the list as like somebody that I play in like any format, because he did show he did have a smash game. Muhammad was my bromance for the last couple of years in EL. He has done really well if you see like a bunch of other guys are out, if he gets the start. So I list him as a value play. He really hasn't done much this year. I mean, his price, again, 52, I'd rather, if I was taking him as a GPP dart, I'd rather have him as like 4K than 52. But I think he's definitely playable. Gets like 10 to 15 a game. So if he ever starts, I'll definitely be overweight on him just because I know his talent, but I just think they're so deep in team here in guard that he doesn't get the run that he needs to produce. So I think that pretty much covers most of Fenerbahce. So let's move on to Panopthiakos, who has the biggest injury of the week. Panopthiakos is 1-2 on the year. They set out a game last round because their opponent had COVID. and didn't have enough players to play. So they lost to Barcelona last time out. And so they're a little bit more rested than Fenerbahce, who played both games in a double week and played domestically before last week and after last week. So they've played a lot of games recently, but again, they're a big deep team, so they've got a lot of players. So we'll have to see what that lineup comes out as. There might be some surprises, might be some opportunity to take, and at least it's the second game and not the last game. So, but Panopthiakos, a little disappointing team, but they lost Kaliathis. So really looking for a true point guard, a playmaker on the team. So might see some more moves and additions. Pierre Jackson is off the team, so do not play him. And Ionis Papapetru, who I call iPapa, he is out. He has a rib injury. So here's the question. I am positive pretty much that Foster will start, that Konstantin Mitu, let's just call him K-Mit, he will start also. So those two pretty much are the locks to start. I'm very confident Augusti will start, but Giorgio Papagiannis, or we'll call him G Papa, will he started before at least one game this season, so I wouldn't be surprised if he starts also. But even though Augusti does start, G Papa gets most of the minutes. So I'm not sure if they'll just go with two bigs, so either being K-Mit, G-Pop, K-Mit, Augusti, if one of these other minor guys will get a start, or if they'll play more guards. So Sky started last time. He really didn't do much. It's really not he was a great DFS player last year, but he just hasn't materialized yet this year. So he's fool's gold. Like you see him with that starting, and you're like, oh wow, I remember last year he did good, and then he's under 5 DK points in 24 minutes. So he's no way not playing him until I see more consistency. So even if he starts, but Howard St. Rue could also get the start. He said some really good games, but what really concerns me is Boca Cordes. He actually started game one, and he actually had a really, really good game one, and then he got an injury. But he's fit and he looks ready to come back. So does he go right back into the starting lineup? But I think that's going to hurt St. Rue. St. Rue had great games in his absence. He didn't play the first game, but he played ever since. And with him back, does he get the same minutes? And if they do, maybe they both start, maybe they both play, maybe they absorb iPapa's minutes as a small forward. They go with a 3-guard set, and it's Foster out there and Skies and St. Rue, or Foster out there and St. Rue and Boko. So this is the team that I really don't have a read on. They haven't played domestically, so it's going to be very hard to tell what's going to go on. So if they both do play and start to eat into each other's production, it probably see them at 2.25x, which is not bad, but it's below the cash standards I'm looking for. So we'll just have to see if they fit in my builds. So I'm definitely interested in both players, but not making them a priority because there's too many questions. So looking at the rest of the team, I'll start with K-Mit at forward. I think he's a good cash play. He had 25 DK points. He had 9.5 DK points. And he had 43 DK points. So what is his average? Who knows? I think it's, maybe close around to the 25 mark. But with IPOP out, I think it helps them pick up some rebounds and scoring and stuff. So I feel good with them around 25. That's good for cash. You might be able to get up to around 30. So I think in 9K, it's not too expensive, so I think he's a good play there. G Papa had a dud last round, but with I Papa out, I think he can do well. I like him definitely better as a starter. Um, so I have him as a blue GPP. So if he starts, he's definitely moves up to cash consideration. But I think you can take a shot on him in tournaments. Augusti and Kasalikis are I have them as fill-in values. Like 13 minutes a game, 10 minutes a game, but I think just even getting like 10 points is enough for them to make value to fill in. So Batilli or White are definitely a no unless they start. They're just getting a handful of minutes and only get single-digit DK points. So perhaps if one of them starts, I'll take a shot of them in a GPP. They're definitely pretty cheap at 36 and 42, but not a priority. And then the only other one I keep a watch on is Zelgiris Giorgio here. I have him as a fade right now, but he was a really good player last year. It's a different league, it's different competition now, but possibly with like injuries or rotation or stuff, if he piques my interest, but I think I might wait to let other people try him, and if he beats me, he beats me. But somebody to keep an eye on for the future. So 4-point line should be a decent game. Couple good options here, but definitely like the Fenerbahce side better with those two surefire cash plays. Okay, so the final game of the day is going to be CSK and CZV. CSK lost to Alba last round. They had no domestic game. It's a slight pace down for them, but this should be very, very close. They have the highest spread in the game at 6.5 because Shezva CZV could possibly be one of the worst teams in EuroLeague, even though they do have one win on the season. The way the roster is and talent-wise is they're one of the teams that's just like kind of happy to be there, not really trying to contend for anything. So there are some places that have some of the people for CSK still out. They've kind of struggled to start the season, but they've had a lot of COVID cases on their team. So let's see, the two guys that are marked out, Sterlinkus and Lopanathin, are supposedly still out with COVID. I don't think they're huge factors if they do come back. It does look like Antonov will be back from COVID. Again, he's a role player, so I don't see him having a huge role. The one that we really need to keep an eye on is Shingalia. He has a case of food poisoning. He did travel with the team. He is hopefully feeling better and will be playing, but we just need to keep an eye on him in case he's rolled out, because that will definitely open up some value possibly on the team. I think it would make probably Ball and Boy if he gets a start, or whoever gets a start for him, definitely. I mean, they could do that and move Mulatinov to the 4. Mulatinov came back from COVID last week. He only had a handful of minutes. Again, they didn't play domestically. We don't know if he's still going to have minutes restriction, how he's feeling, how he's going to do, what his conditioning is. If we see him starting, I think he's got a decent shot to do pretty well in this matchup against an easier team. If Ball and Boy gets the start, would definitely probably consider him. But if he's not starting, then I think he becomes more of a GPP. So Voigtman had one good game when everywhere is out, but hardly breaks single digits. But then again, if I do see Shingala's out and I see that he's starting, he's one that I might consider in a GPP. Kurbanoff is so frustrating. Like, he starts, but he week one he had a dud. 2 to 3 decent cash weeks. The last round was a dud again. So I think he's a fade, but he's definitely a GPP dart. Like, he'll get you some points. Like, he's 5'7". I just wish he was like 4'5". I would think the more appropriate price for him. I feel more comfortable playing with him. Will Clyburn has been solid. I just don't know as if Milutinov comes back, if that will start to eat into his production. I mean, they don't play the same position, but they're still in the front court. So but Clyburn's a world-class player. So definitely, I think he super benefits if Shangela is out also. Looking at the guards, Hackett and Hilliard have talent. They have an easy matchup, but they're just not getting it done this year. So I don't know, his GPP is almost borderline fade. Like, they're barely scraping 2x. Each one could have like a huge breakout game, but am I going to pay 74 or 66 to find out if that's going to happen? I don't think so. Not on a 3-game slate. James, definitely a cash play. If you throw out the first game where he was against Barcelona in round one, who's a decent defensive team, throughout that 17.8, his average is 34.2 DK points a game, which is definitely cash playable. There might be like a little bit of a blowout factor here, but CSK really hasn't been blowing people out. They're still getting their players back and figuring out things and getting used to each other. Pretty much starting the season still with like all the people have been out with COVID. So definitely Clyburn and James are the cash options, couple GPP options. Shangela, if he comes out and everything's good and he's good to go and it doesn't seem like he has any lingering effects, I definitely okay put him as cash, but I listen to his GPP just in case, there are lingering effects or he's like, a step slower or they do get ahead and decide to pull him early just to rest them. They probably have a domestic game coming up this weekend. So that's CSK. And let's move on to the final team. So a 6-point loss to Zelgiris last time. They're 1-3 on the year. Like I said, they did one game, but it was against Baskonia, who hasn't had the greatest start to the season either. It's a slight pace up game for them, but it's pretty close. This team could have the play of the day. Emmanuel Terry has joined the team. He signed over the summer, but then he had a positive COVID test, so he couldn't play for the team. But he has recovered. He actually came and played domestically, and also like the other guy in blue here, Taylor Rochester. He didn't have COVID, but he also joined the team. He's played in the league for a couple years now. I think he's played on this team before. So both those guys played domestically. They both had 17 minutes, both had 7 points, but Terry had 7 rebounds. So definitely has some talent there. So at 35, if I see that he's playing in GPPs, I think definitely, even though it's the last game, it's hard. I might, leave a scenario where I can, maybe move up on somebody in the last game, maybe move up from like somebody to Kleinberg and then, play Terry in like utility or for a cheap forward. Just, I think he's a very talented player. There's a lot of potential there and almost like minimum price, definitely some to look at. So there's no one out on this team, and Lloyd and Hall are definitely solid plays. Lloyd could, he's been the MVP so far the first few rounds, just scoring at will, getting 28 minutes a game, definitely worth the money, like pure raw points there. If you're going to pay up for guard and that's your strategy for your build, then definitely recommend that. Hall, he's been solid also. a good start to the season at 83. That's a steal. I think that's a really good price for him. Love that price. Walden also off the bench as a guard has been good. His price is up 1K, so I no longer can call him a value. I think he's a GPP just because he only played 13 minutes domestically, and I'm just kind of worried with Rochester joining the mix at point guard also that he will start to eat into his production. So, Rochester's a plug-in value play. I think, like I say, he's a decent player. I think he averaged like 10.5 DK points as a role player consistently last couple of seasons. So I can definitely see him picking up like where he left off and getting those. And again, like Walden has started the season really good. He's played really well, but I think just this price up at 63 with Rochester on the team, I think it might eat into him too much, and he won't be as productive. So might wait a couple more rounds before I consider rostering him. Kuzmic's GPP because I think Terry will eat into his production. He started out, definitely pretty well. He starts. But, like maybe Terry will get the start. We'll see. But if he starts, I think he can still score some points and do well. But I see him like getting like 12 to 15 DK points. I think he's about 1K too high right now, price wise, until I see, I'd rather see him at like 54, 55 before I know like what their new rotation is going to be adding these two new guys in. Dadovich, on the cash play, he keeps on playing and improving, even though he doesn't start. Don't really see anybody eating into his minutes at small forward. It just seems like he's a great midway cash play. Margot Jagidic Karija, we'll just call him Marco JK, is heading the other direction. I think he might have been hurt at one point and recovering, but he's still around his average from last year, and that's not playable right now for me. He's below the cash line. So last year he averaged about 10.5 points, and even at 49, that's not enough to get where I want to be. So Simonic had 4.8 the first round and 2.8 the third round. So he gets a start in the second round. He breaks the slate almost with like 27 DK points. Don't know what happened. No one was out. No apparent reason for it. So I think I need to get more data before I consider playing him again. If he starts, I'll definitely consider using him. But if not, I think he's a fade. Lazik could possibly absolutely be the worst starter in the history of basketball. He averages less than 1x. He actually plays 14 minutes a game, and he is averaging 4 DK points. Look at that. It's like less than 1x. He is the biggest hell no on the slate. Do not play Lasik. Even though he's starting, it doesn't matter. He's not going to play many minutes. Even if he is out there, he's like a stationary bike. A lot of action, goes absolutely nowhere, does nothing. So Dorbrick is not much better. He gets started domestically. He plays about 12 minutes a game, but he's really not producing either. Reith, the guaranteed 9 points in each round. I think he's a fade. He plays the same position as Terry, so like last round, I would have said, okay, he's somebody I would consider, because he definitely gets some points at almost like 4K. So I'll just throw him in there. I can pay up on other players that I want to play, and he gives me some salary relief, and I know that I'm not going to get the donut from him or get low numbers. But again, this is a team where you add 2 decent new players into the mix, and I think we really need to wait a week and see what's going on with that. So So that wraps up Thursday's slate. Again, there's some good cash plays I think to build around. Couple questions, but pretty straightforward. It's not like we're waiting for like a major industry other than Shigella there for CSK. So it should be fun. And who knows? We could hour before slate, another game could be canceled because more positive tests. People could be out. So it's always worth paying attention. But FSI will have you covered. So pay attention to our Twitter, join our Discord, get in the chat there. It's free for the next 2 weeks still. And we will, help you out with building your lineups, getting you any news or information that you need. And look forward to seeing some green screens and having some fun. So this is Megaruler. I'm the coach for EL for FSI DFS. And thank you for your time. And if you enjoy this free content and it's helped you out at all, like one of the best things you can do is just give us a like, subscribe, get a couple of your buddies to come subscribe to our channel because we want to do more and more of this content, and the more and more subscribers you get, the easier it's going to be for us to provide it for you. So please share, and thank you for your time, and good luck tomorrow.